So here I am in a secondary rainforest in Borneo. Now this secondary part is important. It means that 15 years ago this was a palm oil plantation and now it's a regenerated forest. Let me show you. And the theme of this is that everybody gets a second chance. 50% of students get to university, they get the grades. Of course, you don't have to go to university, you might have other plans. But my point is, GCSEs really don't affect your future that much. If you get the grades you want to do A-levels, then you can get the A-level grades that you want to do whatever you want. Now, when I was your age, I had no idea what education was for. I grew up in Ibiza and I went to my first school at 3. It was a nuns' convent school, entirely in Spanish, didn't understand a word. Next, I went to a Dutch school run by a woman called Marlika, where I counted beetles all day. Then we went to a school that was called the Hippie School. And you can imagine what that was like, full of hippy-dippy stuff. It was actually next door to an abattoir where we could see animals getting slaughtered for food. I should be a vegetarian. I'm sorry. Then I went to a Spanish school called Blatz, and then that evolved into an international school run by parents. We only had one proper teacher in the whole school. She was awesome. Her name was Caroline. And so we were just educated by parents. I learnt German, Spanish, English, French. My art teacher was the cartoonist for the Daily Mail. It was awesome. And then one day my dad's drinking whiskey, playing poker, loses everything. A shop, a restaurant, a flat, another flat. Gone. Everything totally wiped out. We went from pretty well off to nothing. I was 10 years. Well, what happened next is my mum shacked up with somebody famous. His name was Brian. He was an ex-bank robber. He'd come out of Pankhurst jail on the Isle of Wight, written a book, was a minor sort of celebrity, but also a career criminal. In fact, you can go on the internet and find out that he stole nuclear fuel rods and dumped them in the Thames when the Israeli Secret Services didn't want to buy them. So this is the guy who became my stepdad for a few weeks as we left Spain and fled to Canada, where my mum had a friend. In Canada, I went to 3 different schools, and mysteriously, my father turned up again. Ryan, the bank robber, had disappeared. So how many schools am I on to now? About 8. And I'm 11 years old. Anyway, in Canada, I'm an illegal immigrant and we're broke. So what do? We hand ourselves in. We say, take us away, send us back to England. And guess what? The Canadians say, good riddance, and off we go. So as an 11-year-old, I arrive in London. I go to an all-boys school called Quinton Kynaston, where the greatest sport in the world is to come down to the lower school's toilets, the year 7s, and if you're in year 11, you line up behind the year 7s and you pee all over them. Welcome to Britain, Mr. Salles. So, after a year of Lord of the Flies at Quinton Kynaston, I escaped to Marylebone Grammar School. Sounds brilliant, but I only got in because the school was shutting down. This meant that many of the teachers were leaving and they weren't all being replaced. So you can see by now education was a bit of a tough call for me. And on top of that, I had to teach myself things like physics and RE without a teacher. And back in those days, your teachers didn't bother to prepare you for exams. Oh no, they just thought, we'll make you brilliant at our subject, and then the exam will come along, and miraculously, you'll do well. So I did okay. And the reason I did okay is I started studying from the 1st of April. I went to the library every single day for 3 hours. Now, I didn't think that was a lot. I thought I'd left my revision really late. But most students that I teach in this country will not be revising for 3 hours from the 1st of April. No. Now this is important because it means the GCSE grades that you get are nowhere near the grades you could have got if you even worked moderately hard like I did, when I didn't really see the point of education at all. I just thought, well, it'd be a shame to do all these exams and not get any decent grades. So I had to leave that school after year 11 because it shut down, and I went on to 6th form. I didn't want to go to university. Only 10% of students went to university. Did I look like the top 10% of students? No. But here's the thing. I kind of wasted my sixth form. I worked 12 hours a day at my weekends. In my free periods, I socialised or I played sport, because why would I work hard? I wasn't going to go to uni. As soon as I got to 18, I was going to get a job. And that's what happened. I got a job in the civil service, in a hospital, a role that no longer exists. I collected the X-ray files from the wards. And on one particular ward, the files were only released when someone had died. Every day, I collected files from that ward. People were dying every day. This kind of freaked me out. I thought, life is actually pretty short. Okay, I'm only 18, but it's running out. I'm watching it run out. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say this. On my first day, I introduced myself as Dom, short for Dominic. But my manager misheard it as John, and I didn't have the heart to correct him. I was too shy, and so I was John for the whole of that year, working as an X-ray files clerk. Oh, but what it taught me is that education equals freedom. Not at GCSE, not at A-level, at university. I watched my future wife go away to teacher training college. I went and visited her, and I thought, I want a piece of this. This sounds fantastic. And so guess what? I went away to train as a primary school teacher for 2 years, and it was the most intense education I'd ever had. Unfortunately, it meant I had to teach primary school children, and although I thought my lessons were awesome, the kids couldn't remember anything I taught them. So after 2 years of that, I thought, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to convert to just an English degree. And that saved my life, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The point is, I had to wait until I got a real job to find out the value of an education that gave me the freedom to do whatever I wanted. I actually didn't start teaching. I started out as a tax inspector, and I was pretty good at that. But it was boring. I got to go away and do something that was interesting. Working with you guys. Only real ones, not virtual ones, like in a school. Now, the other great thing that my father's gambling had taught me is that you can lose absolutely everything and start again from nothing. We spent 17 months in a bed and breakfast hotel next to Euston Station. Not pretty. Full of crime. Didn't matter. I went to school. I had some friends. I still learnt. Eventually we got a council house. I used to get beaten up on the council estate because I talked like this. My father went to work in a casino in Iran. Hurrah, he made loads of money for about a year. Then there was a revolution. He fled, escaped with his life, again with nothing. But they used the money as a deposit on a house. It was the shell of a big house. It had 3 floors to it. We lived in the bottom one, which was derelict, and did it up a room at a time. So I lived on a mattress on the floor, and eventually they sold that and we moved to the next flat up above. It was derelict. I lived on a mattress on the floor and so on. Anyway, the point of my story is, when you've lost everything and you started from nothing again, and you find out that it's possible within 10 years to make a completely and totally new life, you lose the fear of failure. I have never been afraid of failure. It is the most wonderful feeling I can tell you. You should feel that when you go in to get your GCSE results. If you failed, you haven't failed. You've just learnt that your revision was no good. Or, if you want a positive spin, wasn't yet good enough. Here's the thing. My crazy family went from nothing to something by working hard. They went back to nothing again by being dumb, gambling. So guess what? I don't gamble. However, I work hard. I mean, I'm in Borneo, in the jungle, making a video for you guys. Because if I can persuade anyone who hasn't worked hard to work harder, if I can persuade anyone who's thinking university is rubbish to consider it, if I can persuade anyone that failure is an option, in fact, failure is the best way to learn how to succeed, then I haven't wasted the video in the forest. Have you noticed how much I've melted, by the way? Does that look any better? probably not. Anyway, good luck with A-levels, but don't leave it to luck. Work hard, enjoy it, because the future is fantastic. Can you remember why I brought you to Borneo's secondary forest? Second chances, easy. Look at the growth on that. That could be you.